gentlemen, I'm very, very happy to be here tonight to share with you some things from my my latest book called Impulse of the Lyric Moment. Everyday Pleasures of Crafted Verse. It's a fun book. It's very relaxing. I concentrate on the theme of making the most of the moment. And in fact, when I opened it just by chance today, the passage that I came upon, a short one, four-liner, is called Entreaty, meaning an urgent request. Oh, a moment, I pray you don't go. From the crystalline heaven let flow heavy rain or a fine cooling dew. Your disciple keep mindful of you. That's it in 4 lines. Keep that moment, because everything depends on it. Now, I wrote an ode to the moment at the beginning of this book in the introduction. Ode on the moment, and I base it in form upon the precedent set by the greatest English ode writer, I would say many people would claim, and that is John Keats. Ode to a Grecian Urn, Ode on a Nightingale, to Autumn. He wrote 6 odes before he died at, I think, 25, almost 26. He was suffering greatly, and, but he wrote such odes, and so I use his form as a model for the form of my Ode on the Moment. Computer, lead me in your path a while, and let me follow, liking a surprise. May fingers dance in that beloved style, which brings a smile to lips, a light to eyes. You stoke the brain with spirit flame awake, the grace of April rays to mirror bright, as ink will print on my electric page a signature that may directly take wild rolling flourishes, the queen of night. As for Mozart you revealed your might, let white of screen be rhymed with 80 age. I'm 82. Mozart only lived to be, 35? Schubert even less, 31. Anyway, I am pretty excited about beginning. A door I open, though the air be cold, it briskly will provoke the waiting blood to swifter mood what memory might hold, to loosen and to free in merry flood. Invincible we sing, and fortune dare, in vino veritas, the punning wits have sung, in wine is passion. Actually, the ancient Latin proverb was supposed to be in vino veritas, alliterative, and that means in wine is truth. But the punsters got started, and very often you'd hear in Latin, at Latin poetry parties, in vino veritas, for wine is passion. That is true, yet love itself will better wine prepare. The lyric chanter readily admits the impulse that a living heart befits. 9 gates we open and ascend the blue. The 9 gates are the spheres, the supposed dwelling places of the planets. Expand the moment, movimentum here. Now, I've got to tell you something, that what stands behind this whole book is a little trip I made to a website called Etymonline, meaning etymology online, and I looked up the word moment. What a fascinating thing to learn. Moment is nothing but a contraction. Momentum in Latin is just a shortened form of movimentum, or movement. Moment means movement, and the Romans, they sound almost the same. Movimentum, momentum. The V's were pronounced as W's by the ancient Romans. So a moment is a movement. There's no moment. There should be no moment without movement. We are animated beings. We should be moving. So, where was I in my poem? Yes. Expand the moment, movimentum here. It moves, and doing so will move the soul. The leaves that scamper make the meaning clear. They birds foretell who play the David role. David is my patron poet teacher. He wrote the Psalms, which I was given to read, lots of them in Hebrew when I was a boy, and they have imprinted themselves upon my mind and heart and spirit. My hands are cold, the wind exudes a chill, Mars, warrior, won't yield to Venus' lure, yet ardor in the heart a thunder beat sounds loudly to expound the vernal will. The sun is health, her universal cure. Will warmly hymn the perfect and the pure. O writing, life drive, solar light and heat. I summed that up in a little fragment, which I put on the back cover, or was it the front cover? Front cover. Seize the hours, catch the minute, just grab it and go, for the moments are more than we know. Every sparkle of star is a million years past, and your night hoard oniric, how vast. Yes. Now, if we want to think about movement and moment a little bit better, we can do it by referring to the most famous poem about consciousness of time, I think, in the history of poetry. It's very, very famous. It has a phrase in it that's quoted by zillions of people every day, carpe diem, which means seize the day, or otherwise spoken, grab the moment. So I translated that poem. It's very, very interesting. It's very short, just 8 lines, the most famous poem the man ever wrote. It just basically took a moment to compose. He writes in this following way: 1 and 2 and a 3, 4 and a 5, 6 and a 7 and 8. Every line you've got to do that. Very rare ancient form, but he borrowed it from the Greek because Horace, Rome's greatest lyric bard, was enamored of Greek lyric forms and tried to preserve them all, including the very rare one that you're about to hear. Don't inquire, you indeed never can know what is the end that God set for me and for you. Stargazing charts, dear Leoconoe, won't avail, so receive things that occur just when they come each day, whether I will enjoy winter again, or if my last one's here, which is bashing the waves onto the cliffs near the Tyrrhenian Sea. Yet be prudent and wise, water your wine, never invest in hope. Seize the day, be aware, fiend-like will fly, even as we speak, our time. Stay with what is at hand, trust in the now, not what tomorrow brings. Thank you, Horace, for that. You have cheered, well, it's an adjuration as much as it is a note of cheer, isn't it? There's an immense amount you can do in a moment, but the moments sweep by, so you better seize them while you've got them. I also have a couple of German poets who wrote 4-liners on time, and I like them because they shift the mood for us. Jean-Paul Richter writes a funny one, and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe writes a gloomy one. No, he writes the one that is designed to cheer you up. It's Richter who's a gloomy guy and puts a little sweetening sauce in his gloom with humor. So let's start with Richter first and then Goethe. They're both poets of the late 18th and early 19th century, and they wrote almanac poems. There used to be a custom where if you throw a party, you'd have a book open on the table for the guests to write in, and they would be invited to encourage almanac poems, they were called, little bits of wisdom, nicely polished, I'm sure. They were not precisely improvised. Here's what Richter says: 5-minute halves, our life supply. 1 minute smiling, 1 to sigh, 1 half to love, but watch it, guy, that half's the end, and then you die. And now we'll have Goethe answering that in more sober tones. 60 minutes in an hour, 1,000 plus the day contains. Sonny, think how great your power. In such time, how much one gains. Well, let's look at the way some other aspects of time, achieving in time. I have picked Picasso as a guy who knew how to make the most of the moment in painting. And here's my poem called Picasso. The screen and canvas beckon, respectively. They ask, might waking moodcraft reckon our tribute and our task? The brush no hesitation can know, unchiding drive, proclaiming revelation, will river swift arrive. The keyboard is a playground of pebbles lined in rows, where cat or child or greyhound will stroll, but no one knows the rock from which a hidden trick fountain sudden springs, a laughter splash, unbidden, from poet child mind sings. The valiant conquer loss, so we needn't fear a risk. The painter saint Picasso is every minute brisk. I go to a Picasso website and look at it every single day and never fail to garner energy from that. And I've written another one showing how just a few minutes of music can transform the mood for a long time and intensely. This is called Mind and Heart. Mind and heart in bright alliance may apathy and sadness drive away. Widerstehe doch der Sünde lends breath of mighty life. My soul befriends colloquies at play. Those who art with dedication serve, animate each ganglion and nerve. Blessing rich activity extends. Inner heaven music apprehends. Never may I swerve universal beauty from the road, which for pilgriming is goal and goad. Laziness that aim from effort rends, Bach can vanquish. Godly fate impends. Holy state bestowed. I'm always glad to write poems about Bach, a thing I do fairly often because he's my favorite of all composers in history. So what have we got next? All kinds of things. In poem 28, right on the next page, I tell about playing music in junior high school string orchestra. And we happen to be playing a suite by Hindemith, the 20th century composer, and it's very playful and delightful. And let's start. Of suite for strings, 8 pieces, coming back to me, an entertainment Hindemith had zestfully composed, and which at age 11, 12, 13, I played in school string orchestra, and which between that ancient time and now I'd never played again, or even heard. Behold, my kind computer, when I clicked the proper keys, let melodies regreet. Each movement had a German tempo title. Schnell, or quick, appeared in pieces which it suited well. Schnell number 5, we clever, witty kids would yell. The little tunes themselves at times were funny, too. An oft-repeated phrase, when exiting from view, got softer till it vanished, or, with hallelujah, would sudden shift the mode to major, truly sweet. I haven't had that memory for years and years, and suddenly it struck me one day, and the magic of the computer is there you are, right where and when and how that moment arose. Okay. A painting. I talked about Picasso. Now I'd like to in this poem I'll focus in a rather surprising way on a single portrait. It's also about one of my favorite people, the wonderful American artist Edward Hopper. So this is on a self-portrait of Edward Hopper. It's a sonnet, that is to say, a 14-liner. Dark jacket, mostly shiny, partly rough. The colors green, the forthright shirt of blue. The hat in 30s mode, plain brown. enough to show a personality to you? The face, indifferent expression, tells the eye to read the thinking from what's wrought in form and color. This indeed impels in me a simple but a striking thought. I never would have let myself combine, when I was Hopper's age, those tones that clash. I like visual arts, and I create them sometimes. Artistic rebel, cries that brave design, and yet one tiny factor might abash the formulation framer. In the tie, the triple tints, quite gently blended, lie. So, now let's see, on poem 56, that poem 56 is just a joke, but I'm enjoying this so much, I put in jokes now and then. This is called Pagan. Of pagan weddings I've been hearing, a word with strong appeal for me, sounds free and easy, quite endearing. Might I perhaps a pagan be? My marriage is to poem writing, new page creating every day. So here's a thought I find inviting. Might I be called a pagan, say? Let's have a pagan wedding. Whole book of them. And so now if we skip a few pages, we've got what? Oh, this is fun. Here I take the birds that are chirping outside, and it suddenly occurred to me one day that what the birds are doing is uttering phrases of 2 or 3 notes, or maybe 4 at the most. And that is also the rule with the cantillation tropes, or neumes, or notes, or signs on the Hebrew text that you recite from at a bar mitzvah. So I learned what musical phrase goes with what with what sign or mark on the text. It's right there in the Hebrew text of the Bible. Very helpful. And all you have to do is get them by heart and then learn to recite the text that way. So here we go. Mircha tupcha, munach et nachta, the metered phrasing, a memory raising, a year returning, when blessed I was learning the cantillation of faith declaration, through text and setting, a pleasure begetting of twofold teaching would mean you'd be reaching a sense that hymning the height would be limbing, where dwelt the hidden by melodies bidden. All right. I am going to be doing things from lots of different ethnic and faith traditions. I call myself a Polygnostic. In fact, let's turn to that right now. I wrote a poem there called Polygnostic. Sometimes I was asked when I was a grad student, I remember, I wrote this many years ago, people would say, what religion are you? And I find that very hard. To this day, I don't profess any beliefs. I was raised Jewish, but then I wrote my dissertation on 2 of the greatest of all Christian-based, that is, they grew up on Christianity, poets, Blake and Goethe, and in the last 21 years of my life, I've specialized in writing poems about Islam. So and I also write while I'm at it about all kinds of wonderful world religions. So it occurred to me I could call myself, when asked about what belief you are, I could call myself a Polygnostic, because that's just Greek for a many knower, one who knows from many things, from many sources. The myth world I greet of religious traditions that needn't compete through proclaimed suppositions, but rather foregathered in chorus may be, ecstatic performers with visage of glee. We're wanderers, each with the honor of knowing what wisdoms in multiple colors are flowing through minds of the poets in river unseen, where confluent currents renourish the green. The heart Polygnostic has knowledge of many traditions, admission permitting to any who'd like our symposial, that means drinking party, meeting to join, where needless contention we wholly eloign. With goblet and tankard we visitors beckon, the water of spirit they're holding, we reckon. Come seek to imbibe what the heavens have lent in stations of holiness. Enter our tent. Okay, and here, just a few pages over, this is quite interesting. This is an example of what I do very, very often. I am a poetic fortune teller. I work with momentary inspiration, and one of my very favorite methods of gaining these special moments is to open the Quran and read something. And if I love the verse that I like, that I first encounter, I'm tuned in, I'm tuned on, and I write. But if, on the other hand, I don't quite care for what I just read, I might close the book and open it at a different place and write on that instead. But the whole thing combines in the neatest way with our moment theme, because it is really momentary revelations that I seek. I write quite rapidly, and then I may revise later. I really never stop revising. But anyway, this introduces the theme. I call it Psalmer. And here's from Quran 1755, verse 17, Surah or chapter 17, verse 55. And we preferred some of the prophets above others, and unto David we gave the Psalms. That's Muhammad's opinion, that you have to really have certain preferences among the prophets, if some of them you will allow to sing like some things on the order of David's book of Psalms. In the way that your servant King David had done, let me wander each day when awaked by the sun. For the cleaver of daybreak, that's what the Quran often calls the sun in the sky. The cleaver of daybreak, new ray garments spun. The reworlders of word into being are one. There's a Torah, a gospel, a holy Quran that declare we are each resurrected at dawn. It says that in the Quran, actually. Muhammad says that every dawn, every time we wake up in the morning is a resurrection. And there's a special prayer that you can say without even getting out of bed in the Jewish tradition that thanks the Lord for returning your soul to you. It's a daily miracle. Sing a hymn that is new to the nameless adored. To the world give it bravely, a heaven reward. Holy dew from the merciful blue is outpoured. Chant a song that in bounty of sound will accord. Be a psalmer in summer, exalting the fall. Be a singer in winter, let spring be for all. Higher emblem of rising and shining, a call to resound through the vault of the fatherly hall. That is fun, and I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I have had that kind of fun. I would like to show you on 3 adjacent pages poems with the following titles. Pick a random page, another random page, a third random page. They're all no, they're not sonnets. Yes, they are. Sonnets, 14-liners on Quran verses, which I found at random, the random moment. Carpe diem, carpe momentum. Let's see. Quran Surah 16, the B. All of the chapters in the Quran have nicknames to help you remember what the main theme is. This is verse 10. He it is who sendeth down water from the sky, whence ye have drink, and whence are trees, on which ye send your beasts to pasture. What? How might the cattle pasture on the trees? There's hardly any herbage near the ground here in Arabia, so look around for shrubs and then for taller growths than these. I'm citing Pickthall's footnote, and I love to picture cattle grazing from the boughs. The added context for the quote allows a moral. Need some help? Just look above. As in a parable of Jesus, we observe some cattle feeding from a tree, and straightway a valid lesson draw. Imagination and perception, elicit. Thank you, guide to poetry. The spirit conquered when it came and saw. Notice Julius Caesar being reworked there a little bit. I came, I saw, I conquered. Another random page, Quran, Surah 20, Taha. Verse 121 and then 122. Then they twain, that is, the two of them, ate thereof, so that their shame became apparent unto them, and they began to hide by heaping on themselves some of the leaves of the garden. And Adam disobeyed his Lord, so went astray. Then his Lord chose him, and relented toward him, and guided him. It takes no time at all. The next verse he is forgiven and given helpful guidance in his new transition phase of life, which will last just a few thousand years. 2 verses, jewels twain my heart have charmed. We've heard the tale of some forbidden food, and judgment consequences that ensued. But here we needn't feel too much alarmed. The mood is quiet, altered, and more calm. With freedom were we dowered, and we may, empowered to explore, be led astray. Breathe deeply, peacefully. The God of Alm had chosen and relented, and would guide with helpful counsel, walking by the side of one who sought and will receive advice. Fear not that peril might at times entice. Far rather choose, relent, and guided be, soul warmed by the reward of poetry. A third random page, Quran Surah 30, the Romans. And of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the difference of your languages and colors. That's verse 22 and verse 27. His is the sublime similitude in the heavens and in the earth. All right. Your languages and colors are diverse, and each a sign of the supreme unseen. From inclusivity so deep, serene, emerging, we our souls in love immerse. How infinite the plenitude of being! All worlds are one sublime similitude, and thus with power deific are endued. Their God informs that we are hearing, seeing, including the colors of human skins, of human beings throughout the world. That gives us a sense of an utterly amazing God of plenitude or fullness. All transient things are likenesses, proclaimed the poet Goethe after 60 years of work on Faust. Consult the final page. I take your work to heart, great German sage. Let there be light, the metaphor endears. In sound, let there be light is first of all addressed to the ear. Then sight, then you see it in the sky. The bard a world inframed. I'd like to give a couple of more random pictures of moments. This is called Polish Carol. In grad school, I took a year of Polish as part of my master's degree for the Slavic department. That's what they required at Harvard University. And this is a Polish carol that I was taught in class. Przebierzemy do Betlejem pasterze, grając skocznie dzieciąteczku na lirze. Hastening to Bethlehem, the shepherds mild, playing on their psalteries would please the child. Chwała na wysokości, chwała na wysokości i pokój na ziemi. Glory on high, and on earth, peace. A memoirist of wood song and of music would I be. At 20 years of age I learnt this flowing melody. And why is that important? In a scientific frame, it may a useful datum be, and might attention claim. Much in a 7-volume novel, Proust desired to say, about a musical motif that chanced to come his way, the name of the composer of the memorable phrase we hear. The fictive theme, however, no one ever plays. It might have been so easy to transcribe. Did it exist? The doubt's aroused. Though focused on, the tones are badly missed. Clairvoyant are the seers, folk clairaudient will hear. Though more than 60 years have passed, I hold the carol dear. And I'd like to give you another musical magic moment from Italy. Again, it's from my junior high string orchestra. Corelli, Concerto Grosso in D major, Opus 6, number 1. It's often called the Christmas Concerto because it ends with a Sicilian melody. In other words, if you have la 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 1 2 3 4 5 6, and sometimes 1 da 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 da. That is called Sicilian, alla Siciliana. Okay. And this was the first movement played by Les Talents Lyriques, the name of the ensemble. In middle school and high school orchestra we played a Christmas-time concerto that Corelli wrote. The pastoral, a Yuletide mood, I love to note, Siciliano shepherd restfulness portrayed. Another pastoral begins Messiah, right? For Handel saw the shepherds welcoming the Christ. The triplet phrasing, smooth or dotted, had enticed Corelli, too. A Merry Christmas 'twould invite. We played it every year, the pleasures would abide. The plan for every movement features colloquy. 3 soloists will play a while, and then we'll be aware the total group an answer will provide. This back-and-forth procedure is relaxed, refined, both natural and elegant, a paradigm of harmony pristine, serene, and sublime. It taught a style of life, respectful, careful, kind. I'll give another example. In this one, we have a moment of Quran interpretation, once again a random verse, that combines Christian and Islamic memories. The Quran, has an entire chapter or surah called Mary, and you can learn 10 times more about Mary from that chapter than you do from the entire 4 evangelists. Mary is featured in Islam, in Islamic scriptural narrative, to an extent that she is not in the Christian one. This is fascinating to me. I really love the Islamic Mary. Quran, Surah, let's see, it says, chapter 5, verse 110. Allah saith, O Jesus, son of Mary, remember my favor unto thee and unto thy mother, how I strengthened thee with the Holy Spirit, so that thou spakest unto mankind in the cradle as in maturity, and how I taught thee the scripture and wisdom and the Torah and the gospel. Jesus was taught all these things direct by the Lord, and that's pretty amazing, isn't it? And in fact, there's also a place in the Quran where we hear Jesus give us a sermon in the cradle. It is one of the loveliest things you could ever hear. Okay, so here's my moment memory. I too entranced recall, as 'twere a kiss that I received in cradle, and in this believed ere summer dreamt of fall. Most thankful for the past, it thence became my gift to share a hymn that never wasn't there, and lives with what will last. Oh, I hope so. The wisdom you'd impart in Torah, Gospel, and Koran, may I from Scripture carry on, as at that grateful start. graceful start. Let Mary's labour pain, that you by wonder love assuaged, remain the guide by which I've gauged a preternature gain. Yes, God achieved two miracles, actually, two distinct miracles for Mary while she was giving birth, because it was one of the most agonizing experiences of labor pain that was ever had. And Mary had begun to think that maybe it had been better if she'd never been born in order not to have to endure this. But what God did God did was to lower the branch of the date palm so she could eat dates, and to bring a water spring right up to where she was so she could drink the water. Two forms of preternatural comfort to her. So, let me end now with a short poem from my own tradition. This is actually something I did not have to imagine. It happened exactly as described. Quiet morning. And it has a little epigraph, all spelled out in Russian. Chamisha Chumshe Torah, 5 books of the Torah. Pichiknyuzhye Moiseyeva, the Pentateuch of Moses. That first line was Hebrew, the second one was Russian. The publication was in Zhytomyr, a Russian city, in 1865. And my father used it as a school book when he was a boy. And after he died, I was given the book, and I opened it one morning. Zhytomyr, 1865, Part 1. This Bible starter book my father used in his Toronto cheder as a boy. Not long ago, in 1988, I, for a bookmark, used a random page that from a desktop flip-type calendar I took. The text in Genesis is marked. I'll give you it from Hebrew. Here it is. And God to Abram said, Go from your land and from your birthplace and your father's home toward the land that I will show to you. I turned a few more pages and I found a postcard portrait of a man I'd learned from elsewhere was my grandpa, though he died before there was a chance that we could meet. High-waisted pants he wears, a stripy tie that halfway down the formal shirt front stops. Dark jacket, bowler hat, the styles of beard and mustache are surprisingly like mine. Another photo in the book I saw, that from the middle 1940s came. A 3-year-old. No glasses yet. That's me.